You were Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to cover again, I did a video of this a little while ago, the Cracker Barrel debacle. Now, you may look at Cracker Barrel and say, well, how could they have fucked it up so bad? And that's a reasonable question, but let's just take a wider angle view of all this. And a lot of the blame is falling on this little blonde cheeky babe girly Julie, what's her face, and looks like Jules is really taking the fall for the whole thing. Now she's very well compensated for it, so we don't need to feel sorry for her. But she came in as CEO, as I understand, just a little over 2 years ago. So and then after a year or so, she was put onto the board of directors, and but the ownership, the very intense and narrowly held ownership by the likes of the BlackRocks and so on, suggests that she was really just a useful stooge, a useful fool, a useful flunky, a plausible face to stick out front, while the boys behind the curtain were pulling the strings and making decisions. The program and trajectory that the company was on in terms of their internal processes and the things they were doing didn't, as far as I can tell, noticeably change with Jules coming on board. Maybe it picked up pace a bit, but so the LGBTQ, the diversity and inclusion, affirmative action, and all this sort of stuff, all the buzz, all the leftist globalist buzz, that's fully and aggressively embraced by the likes of the BlackRocks and the Vanguards, the State Streets, and so on, that own a very big part of Cracker Barrel and control pretty much anyone who sits on the board. So these programs were already in place. It was already a globalist thing. Now, I guess we sort of need to come to grips with this thing that, in terms of the globalists, and BlackRock definitely is at the cutting edge of along with the George Soroses of the world and so on. They perceive where are the concentrations of white people? Where are they? Is it in football? Is it in ice hockey? Is it in a certain city or district or suburb, or do they enjoy certain things? Is it in computer games, for example? Are there certain restaurants where the clientele, the patronage is pretty much all white, particularly if it's older white people, people over the age of 40 or something. Now, wherever these concentrations of whiteness are, or conservativeness, as they would think, wherever those concentrations are, the forces of globalization, again, with the likes of BlackRock right out front, the forces of globalization are, we have to break it up. If that's where white people go, it could be a franchise that they enjoy watching, Star Wars, Star Trek. If it's something that white people enjoy or concentrate, or listening to Shakespeare, then we have to destroy it. We have to fuck it up as aggressively as we can. And I would argue that Cracker Barrel is one of those things, the clientele, the down-home Southern cooking type thing, the elderly Southern gentleman around the old Cracker Barrel thing. That, by the way, when I first started going to the US, and you'd get in sort of, rural Texas, or probably more to say, the Georgia, around the southern part of the United States, at least, you would still see those sort of stores around the place. Not many of them, and they were already sort of disappearing. But that old, 1890s, early 1900s sort of wooden shack type store and general store type thing that you see really in movies now. But anyway, that was encapsulated that by the Cracker Barrel. They did it quite well, the cuisine and the menu and the look and the feel and the logo and the how they sort of delivered the service. I thought it pretty much delivered on that America of yesteryear. But America of yesteryear wasn't flooded with black lesbians and Latinos and this and that, and so So that's an era of the United States that has to be crushed and eradicated. Those fucking white Nazis, they may congregate around that, and we have to take that away from them. And in the overall scheme of things, if you look at all the things that even in Australia, there are articles in newspapers and online where if they identify an area that's 98% white, they'll effectively say, well, that's Hitler must be there. It's a concentration of Nazis. So they were going after, so the globalists were going after anything that was sort of older style, white, conservative, maybe a bit of a Christian overtone, something like that. And Cracker Barrel fitted the frame for that. So they kind of had to do something as ideologically as they would perceive it. And I think they began this, I don't know, 8 years ago, somewhere around that. And they began inserting the LGBTQ, we support black lesbians, the whole, all that sort of stuff. And now that comes at a cost when you do that. It's quite expensive to actually implement a program like that because you're getting rid of your good quality people, your capable people, your well-trained people, your responsible people, your people that are striving to do well. You're getting rid of them and replacing them with people who are just affirmative action flunkies. And so the standard of everything declines. And so if you want to maintain a top quality service delivery, it's much more expensive to do it. So what do? You then look at, well, how can we save costs? How can we reduce costs given we've now got much lower quality people on the payroll at all levels, at executive level, at floor level, and store manager level, the whole thing. And the view was that, well, where can we reduce costs? Well, food production and food delivery. So instead of the home cooked fresh food, which was part of the gig, instead of that, well, we'll just bulk produce the food down the road there with the illegal immigrant slave labor and illegal alien labor. We'll just bulk cook it, and then we'll just give it a zap in the microwave and put that on the table. That'll do it. What about presentation of that? It costs money. Hey, we're trying to save money here if you don't mind. So they took the value out of the food and the service. And so the food, certainly by all accounts that I've seen, went from being quite good quality and saying, gee, I'll go to Cracker Barrel. They serve, fresh food as well, into being much lower quality and poorer quality and poor service delivery, less presentation, the whole 9 yards. And so people will think, hey, I'm not happy with that. And as you could see the share price, about 6 years ago, before COVID, there was already an obvious sort of staggering and decline in the share. I thought the share price was heavily overvalued, by the way. So I think it had to come back anyway to some sort of reality. Nonetheless, the share price declined by something in the order of 50%. Now, this would have been accelerated by COVID, which was beyond the control of the executive managerial team. But nonetheless, everyone on the board of directors, I think except for one guy, everyone on the board of directors was a BlackRock, Vanguard flunky appointee. And they were all approving all this LGBTQ stuff and reduction in service quality. They were all approving that. Or if they weren't directly approving, they didn't come and saying, I know, let's lower the quality of our food. And so that wasn't that. It's, we have to have LGBTQ and affirmative action. We have to have that. And if the collateral damage is lower quality food, piss poor service delivery, piss poor management, then we will accept that collateral damage because we're getting the LGBT. So it's a ideological fanatics accepting collateral damage. That's the scenario we're looking at here. So the share price, again, aided by COVID, but it was heading south anyway. The share price drops 50+% below, its average peaks, 6-7 years, whatever previously. And so what do? But instead of correcting the actual problems, let's put quality food back on the table. Let's put value in there. So when people come in and say, gee, that's good value, I've had a great feed and it's at an affordable price, and the wait staff didn't treat me like shit. This is an important part of the service delivery. Also the vibe of the place, the old old sort of white Southern Christian type thing. That's why they had the clientele they had. That sort of vibe and an atmosphere, and of course the food and service delivery. So they started to take away one by one all the things that made the restaurant chain successful, all so they could just get their LGBTQ stuff inserted in there, all because, hey, there are too many white people, probably most of them Christians, going there, so we've got to crush those motherfuckers. That's the that's the insanity of these people. So we've got to make sure these white people, these straight white males, have got nowhere to go. Everywhere they turn, there's going to be just mass diversity. So anyway, they then land on this Julie chick. Now, again, this will be, in my opinion at least, she's just a straight out DEI hire. She's just a little, blonde girly flunky that's flitted around from here to there. She does have some cred in the food industry, by the way, but I think that was all DEI anyway. They just wanted a giggly little blonde girly chick to run around pretending to be important. So anyway, they put her in there, but the program she's following, as best I can tell, is one that she was given. Now, the problems are you're going to take out the Cracker Barrel from Cracker Barrel. I mean, that's a bold strategy. That's guaranteed to do well. So you're going to do, so she's just given the job of, look, here's the program. You have to make it happen. Now, there was some recovery after the COVID fallout sort of started to settle down. There was a bit of recovery in the share price, not a whole lot, given that it was already at 10-year lows or something. But it was nonetheless some sort of recovery that was starting to appear, more because the worst of COVID and its knock-on effects were over than anything that they were doing at Cracker Barrel, I think. But nonetheless, so they put the little giggling blonde girl in there. She was doing the rounds with the pre-scripted media things, and she looked like some sort of chick on a game show or something instead of a CEO. Now, as I understand it, her base salary is around $1 million, with various incentives and perks and so on. Now, I don't know what possible incentive program she could have accomplished, given how bad things are. But apparently, I don't know. I've got trouble picking the numbers here. And no one seems to know exactly, and the numbers vary, business website to business website. But it seems she was paid last year something around $7 million. For now, given the spectacular nature of the failure and the disaster, can you pay someone $7 million to fuck it up so bad? But I think she was just a little giggling girly they put out front. The BlackRock boys were deciding that we're going to make sure there's no place for white people to congregate. The BlackRock boys were going full on hysterical, ideological, and she was just the front chick to now you got to pay these people the right money. If they paid her $10 a week, then everyone would know she's just a flunky stooge, that the boys behind the scenes are making the decisions, which they are anyway. But if you pay her $7 million, oh, look, she's the CEO. She has to take the responsibility. So I would argue she's the fall chick. Now, would she have done anything different had she been actually making the decisions? Because there's no real change in direction from when she came on board as CEO to what was already happening. So clearly the decisions aren't hers. They've just given her a bit of paper and said, hey, do this checklist. That's the extent of it. And she was paid $7 million to follow a checklist, and she doesn't have to make a decision. I mean, that's not bad. But would she have done anything different? I mean, she's in my view, an affirmative action hire anyway, so she probably would have continued along the lines, some Northeast chick that believes all Southern white men are a fascist Nazi Ku Klux Klan member. I mean, she probably would have continued on anyway with that. Now, if you're a business person, not an ideological fanatic or some two-bit punk or something, or some front chick that they start. If you're a business person, you would look at, okay, we have to make decisions that turn the business around. That's, we're the management team. It is, incumbent upon us when we're obligated to take measures to fix it. So but to do that, you'd have to unwind all the LGBTQ and all the affirmative action, all the DEI. You'd have to unwind all of that. and then concentrate on your core constituency. Sure, you can do things to try and bring in new customers, new diners, and that's sure. I mean, no problem with that at all. But what do you do? Do you go from straight white male Southern Christian home down cooking food? Do you go that to Northeast, gay lesbian pride marches? I mean, is that the jump you want to make? I mean, isn't there any in between territory you can explore? So they, in my view, they were the management team were negligent beyond belief, because they didn't take any of the measures that were necessary to turn it around. Better quality service, better quality food, fresher food, value for money. I mean, there were plenty of roads, but when you go down that path of better quality food, value for money, better service, that takes a lot of discipline, business discipline. It takes training, it takes focus, it takes a real commitment to delivering that, which means you have to let go of the LGBTQ, you have to let go of the affirmative action, you have to let go of the DEI and focus on the real core principles of running a business, in this case, a restaurant chain. And that's something they refuse to do. No, we won't give up the LGBT. No, under no circumstances will we give up DEI. We will serve turds on a plate, and they'll have to wait 10 years to get at each diner those Ku Klux Klan white Nazi motherfuckers. We're going to continue. So they were determined to continue with their DEI program regardless of the damage. But I don't know. I wish someone would pay me $7 million to do a checkbox and tick box and checklist and to fuck it up as bad as it has been. But I think it's unreasonable to sheet it all home to little Jules. I think she's just a fall chick and was just doing what she was told to do. You've been a Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.